want to earn more? Work less and enjoy what you do each day. It's no secret, it can be done. This podcast with Dr. T will not only educate and inspire you, it will also teach you how to do more and be more with the time you already have. It will be like a shot of adrenaline straight into the heart of your business. Here is your host, Tyson Franklin.
Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of It's No Secret with Dr. T. With me today is a small business coach and trainer, and he teaches entrepreneurs how to grow their business and have an impact on the world. Today, we're going to talk about public speaking and presentation skills. Please put your ears together for Clive Maloney. Clive, good morning from me, but I know it's good evening from you because you are in the United Kingdom.
That's right. Hi, Tyson. Good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is.
This is what I love about technology is I'm sitting in my office here at home at 6 a.m. in the morning. You're at your office at home. I assume you're at home at 8 p.m. at night. And there's probably people all around the world who are listening to this.
Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it? And it feels like you're in the same room and we can see each other now. We've just been having a conversation. It's brilliant. Excellent.
So let's get on to today's subject, public speaking and presentation skills. Where do people start? Because I know I remember reading a statistic once, and it said people in Australia would rather die in a fire than do public speaking.
Yeah, that's
which
right.
Is scary.
It is. There's an often quoted study that looked at the biggest fears amongst leaders, and sort of the top 10 biggest fears, and public speaking come out at number 7. Death was number 3 in the list.
Yeah.
And so the gag is that at any funeral, most people would rather be lying there in the casket than standing up delivering a eulogy. Yes,
I've heard that before. And it's true, though. I used to be absolutely terrified. I'm not anymore. Now I just get nervous, which I think nervous energy is great.
It is. And I think the thing is, we get so hung up on this whole notion around public speaking. And there's a quote that I often share. It's by Dal Ludwig. And he says that we should just stop calling these things presentations altogether. Everyone gets hung up on that word. Wouldn't it be easier if we just called them a conversation? That's all that they are.
Well, it is. I had a Dr. Zano, who was a guest. He won Mr. Universe. He was on about 3 or 4 months ago. And he said he used to, and he's also a chiropractor, so he used to do a lot of talks. And he would have his PowerPoint presentation all done, very well polished, that he would do these presentations all around the place. That was how he built his business. And he said there's one particular time he turned up, forgot his USB thing that had his PowerPoint thing on there, and had no notes. And he went, my God, and he rang his wife and said, oh, can you grab this? I don't think, I can't do this. I don't have my crutch, I don't have the PowerPoint, I don't have the things that I need. And she said, why don't you just get up there for a change and just tell people why you do what you do and the message that it is that you want to share. So he did that, and he reckons it was the best presentation he'd ever done in his life. And he said he never ever uses PowerPoints now, purely just gets up and talks from the heart, and he does what you say. It's not a presentation, it's a conversation with the crowd that's in front of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I often sort of go one step further. I think that yes, we should stop getting hung up on this whole notion about it being public speaking or presentation. And we should just start treating it like it is. It's a conversation. And, in that conversation, you're looking to influence your audience some way or the other. And there's a lot of reasons for us to speak publicly. And we have to know that actually just the very act of standing up and speaking, just even before you've started, you're already gaining influence, just standing in front of the audience. But I think it goes one step further than that. When you and I spoke for the first time, it was maybe a month, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
At that point there, we didn't know each other, did we?
No, not at all.
Never met. And so I had no idea right then what you thought of me or what you thought of my ideas or things that I would share. And so the conversation was so unpredictable, right?
I suppose today's conversation is a little bit different because we knew what we were talking about before we got on.
Yeah, exactly. But the first time we ever met, I had no clue how that conversation would go.
Yeah.
But when you deliver a presentation or you're public speaking, you do know, because you get a chance to think about what it is that you're going to be talking about, who your audience is, what it is that they care about, what they worry about, what they lay awake at night and think about, the problems they've got, the desires, Are there things that they might object to? Have you got people in the audience that care about this topic? You get a chance to think about all of that and prepare your talk, prepare your side of it, and even prepare how you'll respond to your audience in advance. So I actually think it's better than a conversation. I think it's a conversation with a plan.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah. Because if you think of it that way, you walk into a room and you bump into a complete stranger. But some people can't even do that. Some people say, oh, I'm no good at networking events because I don't know how to talk to people. So, yeah. But there's a lot of people who are quite comfortable. Yeah, I know some people. Yeah, there's a lady in Cairns especially that I know, and she's organised a lot of networking events, and she can walk around, work the room, very comfortable, and she runs her own workshops, teaching people how to do a particular skill, quite comfortable in front of 10, 15 people doing that. But then if you say to her, "Can you get up and MC this evening?" or "Can you introduce the guest?" She's like, no, I can't do that, because all of a sudden she's out of her comfort zone. So how do people cope with that?
I think the best way to cope is, you might be expecting me to think, something out of left field here, but the best way to cope is to prepare. And that's one of the advantages that you've got. If you know that you're going to stand and speak, and yeah, it's a bit difficult if you're put on the spot right there. And I think, I'll give some ideas that you can do with that in a bit. But I think the best thing that you can do is, if you know you're going to go, sit down, think about your audience, think about what message you need to deliver and what transformation you need them to go through. So often that might be, for me, because I'm an educator, I teach, that's what I do. And so for me, it's about gaining a skill or inspiring people to take action, whatever it is. I want people to go from one state to another. If you think about it, that's the same as marketing, as coaching, sales, everything else, is that, you're looking to solve a problem and help people move towards a future state. And that's all it's about. And if you know it's coming up, you can sit down and you can just plan what you do, rehearse. I mean, don't over rehearse, but get comfortable with what you're going to say, and it all gets easier.
Well, I think it's quite easy. It's like if you go to a networking event and it's surprising, you'll say to somebody, "Oh, hi, I'm Tyson. By the way, what do you do?" And they look at you like a deer in the headlights. And you're thinking, hang on, you're at a networking event. How many times you've been to 100 networking events? How many times have you actually asked, "What do you do?" And people go, as though it's the first time they've ever been asked, because once again, they haven't prepared for it. So I've been to events where there's 10, 15 minutes free, and they go, "Oh, if there's anybody here who'd like to come up on stage and just talk about their business for 2 minutes, we've got 5 spots available." And you see all these people all of a sudden. When you're in class and the teacher says, "Would someone like to answer this question?" and everybody's looking the other way, trying not to make eye contact with the teacher. And I'm surprised those opportunities are missed by people. And I think that's the benefits of public. I think people, if they understand the benefits of public speaking and the doors that it opens, more people would try and acquire the skills necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, why are we speaking? And if we're thinking about business owners and marketers, they're essentially, they're looking, particularly if you think about B2B people, they're looking to increase sales, to decrease costs, and to increase market share. Those are 3 primary drivers for most B2B companies. And so really what they're looking to do is to influence people. And so you have this wonderful opportunity. When you stand up and speak, you have immediate authority. And you get the chance to, just virtually the fact that you are standing up and speaking, you get the chance to build your credibility, and ultimately, hopefully get people to take action. But at the very least, if you focus on delivering a message that's valuable to your audience, they're going to walk away with a great impression. And I think that there is no marketing platform on this planet that helps you build trust and credibility quicker than public speaking. So if you think about traditional marketing channels, let's say e-commerce, is that you might, maybe on your website, you've got an opt-in and people can get on your mailing list, and then you nurture them over time, and then you get them to purchase to make a small time purchase, and then, you'd lead them up your product ladder. Well, when you speak, if you're on stage or in a room or whatever, you can get people to jump from not knowing you to buying in a much bigger investment within a really short space of time.
I've seen that a lot of times when you go to a conference or a workshop, and the guest speaker is up there talking. The one event in particular was one I went to in Nashville in 2013, and Jim Palmer, who's been a guest on this show as well, Jim Palmer got up there, did his talk, and at the end he said, "Oh, and by the way, today I'm offering this if you're interested." He said, for the first 50 people or something, there might have been 300 people in the room, and all of a sudden there was this massive, like, I'd never met the guy before in my life, but all of a sudden, like 100 people jumped out of their chairs and started bolting over to his table because the message that he shared was so good, and the offer that he was giving was so good, that the presenter who was up next, which was quite funny, said, "Yeah, I think we'll actually take a break for 20 minutes because there's no point me talking now because there's too much going on in the room." And that was one of the best examples I've seen. And it wasn't, he did sell from the stage, but he did it so well, and the offer was so good, it created absolute mayhem.
Absolutely. And I bet if you was to go back and unpick that, everything that he did was leading to that final point, that final offer, the call to action, which was to get on this program or do whatever he was. And I think that, if you're a little bit tactical about what you're doing, and of course, it takes a bit of practice to get good at anything, bake a cake, whatever it is. But, if you're a little bit tactical about what you're doing, and it's just a phenomenal opportunity to increase sales in your business and build your brand, build your credibility, build your reputation.
Okay, so let's go back a step. So there's someone listening to this now, and they're going, "I'm not a great public speaker," and I keep hearing all these things about I should be, and I must admit, I used to be terrified, absolutely terrified to do public speaking, and I won't go through how I got through it, but what would be your suggestions? There's going to be people who are quite confident about public speaking. They may not be good at it, they just need to hone their skills, but there's going to be a large group of people, the ones that would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy, that are listening to this and they go, "Where do I start, Clive? What are can you take me through some steps that I can get started?"
Okay. The first thing I would say is start small. You do not have to go out in front of a big stage and speak to lots of people. So just getting used to speaking to like 2 or 3 people at a time is a great way to start small. I often do training around this area, and one of the things I often ask people, because this comes up again and again, but it's okay for you because you're confident and blah, blah, blah. And hey, I never used to be. The first time I ever spoke on stage, I had to be rescued about 2 sentences in because I completely lost the power of speech.
Yeah, yep, I've done that.
Yeah, and hey, I might do it before the end of this podcast. You never know. But I think the thing is, your audience don't know and don't feel like you do. They're there just for a message, and they're too busy thinking about themselves than they are you. And what I often say to people is, like, when you came in and you met me, so by this time people have come into the room, they've shook my hand, they've said hello, and we've had a bit of chit chat, and I've started the course. And I say, how many of you came into the room and wondered, was I qualified to stand here and speak to you today? And I've done this course, this type of training, I don't know, dozens and dozens and dozens of times.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever said to me, "Yeah, I wondered what qualification you've got or what your background is." They don't care. They just
it's true. Yeah, if you're in front, you're an authority.
Absolutely. They just assume that you're the right guy or girl to do it. And as long as you don't make a complete melon out of yourself, then people are probably going to go along with it. And they'll probably believe what you've got to say as long as you say it and sound reasonably confident. So I'm not saying you go out and you tell people a load of rubbish, but you've got to know is that people already are on your side. And sometimes we worry a lot about, like, well, what if I make a mistake and I fluff my words? And, I fluff my words all the time, but I think the only difference is I don't care if I fluff my words. I just get back on the horse and, carry on. So we focus on that all the time. But again, they're not interested in that. They just want to get what they come for on the course. I often think that the mistake that we make is we make it all about ourselves. And it's not about ourselves. It's about your audience. And what we do is we get so hung up on how bad we're feeling and, what if I make a mistake? And ultimately we're worried about being judged. Will people like us? Will they say bad things about us? Will it get out that, perhaps we don't know what we're doing and we suffer from this imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
And so what we do is we're focusing on ourselves. And the more we focus on ourselves, the more we feel this knot inside us. And the more our mouth dries out and the more we get all these other nervous feelings. And I don't know if you've ever noticed, it's very difficult to feel two opposing emotions. You ever tried feeling love and hate at the same time?
No.
No. And it's the same as feeling envy and gratitude at the same time.
Yeah, that
It's
makes
cool,
sense.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So what I do, I think the first thing to do is recognize that when you get these things, if you start to get a little bit nervous, you start to wonder about, like, I shouldn't be here, or maybe I shouldn't even do it. What you've got to do is to go back and focus on your audience. So first of all, acknowledge the fact that this is natural. Every time, I've been doing this nearly 30 years now. Every time I go and stand in front of an audience or go on a podcast or do this or do that, when I have to speak publicly, I get this feeling inside.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad it's not just me, because I'm exactly the same. It's usually before I get up in front of people, the little voice in the back of my head is saying to me, "Why did you say yes to this?" Like, you could just be at home right now, sitting on the lounge, or you could be in the pool. Like, why did you say yes to this? You shouldn't have done it. You fool. You know that you're probably gonna, you have all these fears, and then as soon as you get up there and you get through the first 60 seconds, you get your first laugh, all of a sudden you go, "Oh, I'm loving this."
And, that's the interesting thing as well. You only actually have to be brave for about 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Because once you get going, you'll tend to find you find your stride. And there's some other things you can do around it as well. But what we want to do is to first of all accept that actually the feeling that you're getting is natural, and know that actually the difference between anxiety or nerves and excitement is very small. It's actually almost the same feeling. It's just how we attribute that feeling. And so over the years, I've come to realize actually this feeling that I had that I thought was dread is actually just excitement. And I know it's easy saying that, but the first thing to do is, if you do feel this dread, this nerves, whatever you want to label it as, acknowledge it, that it's okay, because it means you care.
Yeah,
and that's
true.
natural.
And I've seen speakers who get up who I reckon don't care anymore. They're just getting up there and just going through the motions, and you can see them just, they'll rock up to the event 2 minutes before they're supposed to go on stage. They're really casual. They just walk up there. They, "Oh yeah, how you doing?" I'm cool. They throw the message out there. You're sitting, and most people in the room will go, "Wow, they're a complete tosser, aren't they? I never realised how much of a tosser they are." And they'll talk about just how good they are and all the things that they've done, and the message is all about them, not about the audience. And then they walk off and they want to know where all the red M&Ms are, because that's what they requested at their table, and they walk out. And I've seen that a few times, and usually it's people that, and I'm generalising here, they've sort of got to a certain point in their career, and now it's just they don't need to do it anymore, and it sort of comes through. Whereas I've seen other people who are extremely successful, and you can still see there's a passion in what they do. And when they hit that stage, they might be a bit, you can tell they're excited. So can I ask you a question? When you first get on stage, do you have a set opening line, a joke, a story that is like you're settling, how we mentioned in that first 60 seconds, if you can get through that, do you have a set repertoire that you use in that first 60 seconds?
Yes and no, to answer your question. Yes, in as much as I have a structure that I take people through, and I'll share that structure with you today. That might be useful.
Yeah.
So I have a structure that I take people through, not just at the start, but throughout. Particularly if I'm looking to influence people to perhaps to buy into something, or to buy into an idea, not necessarily a product. Or if I want to influence someone to make even a buying decision, there is a structure that I take people through. And so I'll always start there. And so certain tactics that I'll use right at the beginning, which is all about gaining attention. And I'll do that because I want to grab their attention. I want them to listen for the rest of it. I want them to immediately get on board with me. And I'll give you some ideas around that. But I will take people through that process. And I think one of the things that makes it easier is having a structure for the whole thing, and not just thinking about what do I want to say. But if you think about how are you going to structure this? There's an easy way of doing that. And so it's 6 letters. If you know the first 6 letters of your alphabet, then you can do it. I'll take you through that. But what I would say is that if you get this feeling, the first thing to do is to stand up and start, and know that it's natural. It's because you care. And then what I do is that I just double down on my audience.
Okay.
So, like I said, that you can't feel two opposing emotions.
Yeah.
So what I do is, instead of focusing on poor me, I focus on my audience, and I double down on how much love and affection, and the risk of sounding woo-woo here, but focus down on my attention for my audience and how I want to care for them and create a result for them today. And in so doing, I take the edge off how I feel, because it's difficult for me to juggle those different emotions at the same time.
Okay, that makes sense. So when you were talking about, so you said that the first 6 letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F. So have you got 6 steps that you actually run through when you structure a presentation or starting a presentation? Or a conversation? Let's stop calling it a presentation. When you start a conversation with an audience.
A conversation with a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the 6 steps, or the 6 letters. They stand for the separate stages in which you might present your talk. But of course, there's a lot going on beforehand to prepare for that, and the preparation is key. And ultimately, the preparation is like a really simple exercise that you can do for preparation. And it starts with the audience. You and I were talking about that last time we were on Zoom. It starts with the audience, and you think about what is it they've got going on for them right now, and you work out their pain point. Like, what are they struggling with? This is obviously assuming that you are helping people overcome a problem. So you might be teaching them how to use LinkedIn or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you start with where they're at and what they feel about their problem, and if you write it down and script it, everything you know about them, and then what you do is you write down where they will be by the end of your talk. And this is important because you do that even before you decided what you're going to tell them. Because essentially, if you write down where they are now and where you're going to take them to, you've then just got to fill in the blanks. And what you've got is a narrative piece that explains what people will get from your talk, your presentation, your conversation.
That is great advice. That is really. So you know that you've got your audience where they are right now, and then by the time you finish whether it's a half-hour talk, a 2-hour workshop, whatever it is, where are they going to be at the end of your conversation with them? And then you just got to fill in the gaps to lead them from where they are to where you want them to be, and that's it.
It is, and that informs everything else. And what that does as well is it insists that you focus on value and your audience rather than how clever you are, because people can see a fake.
No, and that is such good advice. Like, I know that when I've done presentation, when I've had conversations with an audience, and I have taken them from point A to point B, but I've never thought about it in that sort of framework that you've actually put that together. And I've been to a lot of talks where someone's got up there spoken for half an hour, they've left again, and even though I've got some good information, because I don't think I've ever listened to a talk that I haven't at least got one thing from it. Even if the person was the worst presenter in the world and they sweated and burped and farted and did everything else up there that they shouldn't have done, I usually still take away something. That they will say something that you sort of go, okay, that was good. But they also leave the stage without taking me on a journey anyway. So
exactly,
it's a journey that we're taking the audience on.
Yeah, and actually that's interesting you use that word, because what we have to remember is that yes, it is a journey, and like all journeys, it's an emotional journey as well as a factual journey. There's, it's about the feelings that we go through as well as any cognitive elements that you want to give. So perhaps you're doing a talk on perhaps you provide compliance type training or services in someone's business, and yes, you could argue there's a lot of fact behind that, and rules, and this is the way you do it. But essentially, what you want to do is to get people believing in the solution, get people caring about it, and that's part of the journey that you've got to take people through. So it's not just what have I got to tell people; it's how am I going to make them care, and how am I going to make them care enough to take action, even just that first step that will take them towards whatever goal it is that they might have.
That's brilliant advice. So that's a audience of the.
Well, actually, that happens before, but in my little model here is A is for attention.
Attention. Okay, I'm just writing this down as we go, just to make sure I've got it in the right order myself. Attention.
Sure.
So it's paying attention to the audience.
Yeah, well, actually, it's one step further. It's about getting the audience to pay attention to you.
Oh, okay.
Now, so just like you read a newspaper, there's going to be a headline there that grabs your attention.
Yeah.
Or a blog or anything else. There's going to be something there that grabs your attention. That's your first objective when you're delivering. So you've done all the prep first. Now we want to get their attention, and there's different ways you can do that. It might be to tell a joke. You mentioned that. It could be a traditional one is a statement of objectives, and I kind of think that's a bit boring. It's a good fallback position if you've got nothing else. But here's what we're going to cover today. It kind of works, but it's really boring. Try not to use it if you can. But you can also use facts. You can use rhetorical questions. And a rhetorical question is what you do to set up for something.
Yeah.
So you might say, let me ask you, why would anybody change their marketing practices? And you're not looking for them to answer that. You just set the question up and then you answer it. That's a rhetorical question, yeah?
Yeah, so it's like sometimes I've started a presentation. Is there anyone here who's heard me speak before? And usually I know they haven't. And I go, oh, that is awesome. It means I can use all my old jokes and you're all going to laugh.
Yeah. So immediately you're building rapport with them because you're being relaxed, you're being funny, and you're showing your warm, personable side.
Yeah, and you do have to change it a little bit depending on who you're actually talking to. So everything you said before about the audience and leading up, taken from the journey from where they are to where you want them to be, that's all the prelude before we got to these 6 steps, which is attention is one, or A.
And the best thing you can do for attention, by the way, there's 2 things that I do. The first thing I do is ask 3 questions. And when you do this, you've got to ask the questions, and the answer to the questions need to be yes to your audience. And when you ask it, what you've got to do is you're looking for people to say yes, and you stick your hand up in the air as high as you can to show that you're voting yes, and you say something like, how many of you here would like to learn more about presenting, about public speaking? And you stick your hand up and you ask the question really confidently. How many of you here would like to know how to deal with those nerves and those butterflies and actually be able to stand up and speak confidently in front of your audience? You stick your hand up. And then you ask your third question, how many of you here would like to be able to deal with people who heckle and cause you problems on that course or, on your delivery? You stick your hand up. And so 3 questions. And those 3 questions, one is that you're getting people to say yes, which is great because they're agreeing with you.
Yeah.
And the other is that they're self-selecting. They're saying, yes, this is obviously about me. And you want people to self-select. And my favourite way to start anything is with a story. And you tell a good story, Tyson. So, I know that you're good in that area.
Oh, no, I have heaps of stories. Just sometimes just making sure they're appropriate. That's the hard part.
It is, yeah. But that's attention, and that's what we want to start with. You've got to get their attention.
Okay, so once you got their attention, what's B?
B is benefits. So now you got their attention. Now you've got to help them understand what it is that they will gain through paying attention to you. So that might be to get better at sales or marketing or whatever it is that you do for them, or it might be how to bake a cake. Whatever it is, the transformation you're going to get them on, you've got to help them understand what's the payoff for their time and their attention. And what's most important here is that this is an emotional element. And so here, again, you want people to self-select. And so it might be like, how many of you here have struggled with delivering presentations? And you start with that and you say, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to help you deal with this. I'm going to give you some practical examples about how you can go out and use some tactics where you can go out and speak confidently. And your objective here is to get people thinking, yes, this is going to help me.
So A is attention, B are the benefits, which I think is super important. There have to be benefits for the people sitting there listening. So what's C?
Okay, so C is for content.
Aha.
So this is the main bit where if you're teaching like I do, then you'll teach one strategy or the other. Or if it's if it's an inspirational piece, then you'll share a story and you'll do what you need to do. or maybe if it's supposed to entertain, then maybe you tell your jokes. But essentially, there's that main bit in the middle. For most people, it will be to either educate or inform. And this bit here is where the brain is starting to engage and you're giving strategies, tactics, focus on giving value.
Okay, and that's the important part. There's got to be value. If the people are giving up their time, you must be giving them value for their time.
Yeah, even if it's free, go out and give your best stuff, because then, like, when you do, then they're going to think, bloody hell, what's it going to be like if I pay twice to come and work?
It won't be as good. No, I'm just joking. But that's a really good point. So if you're doing a free presentation and you just give it everything you've got, they will sit back and go, wow, if that's what I get for free, it's true. How good is he going to be if I took him on as a business coach or use whatever service product that he's actually selling, or he or she?
Yeah, I learned 4 letters from Robin Sharma, one of my heroes. Do look him up if you get a chance.
What was the name?
They are Robin Sharma.
Okay.
Robin Sharma, amazing guy. He wrote a book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Definitely worth a read. But he gave me 4 letters, ADOV. Always deliver outrageous value.
And I think especially when you're doing, I keep saying presentation, having a conversation with a group of people.
Yeah.
You want them always leaving more informed than when they got there. You want them to leave the room and say, wow, I saw Clive talk at the such and such luncheon. He was fantastic. Maybe we should get him for our event. Or somebody else is going, I'm looking for a speaker. And you want straight away them thinking, Clive was fantastic. He gave us so much value. And we didn't even pay him. It was a free event. If you're paying him, my God, he's going to hit it out of the park.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that I've come to realize over the years is that this isn't just about teaching a subject. It's not about sharing information. It is about creating a transformation. And a transformation comes with an emotional journey. We talked about that before. And so one of the things I want to ask myself before I get up and stand up and speak, how do I want people to feel at the end of it?
Yeah.
Do I want people to feel confident? Do I want people to feel like they've got to take action? Do I want to feel nervous because they've got to sort something out in their business, otherwise they're going to have a problem? What is it I want people to feel?
No, I think that, yeah, and feeling is everything. You want people to leave the room feeling some form of emotion, so when your name crops back up, hopefully that feeling comes back to them and they relive not just what they learned, but they relive the feeling that they had in that room while you were actually talking. And I've seen speakers that as soon as they hear their name, that I get all these flashbacks of these really good memories. Don't always remember everything they said, but I know if they were speaking again, I'll be one of the first ones to get a ticket to watch them. So what is D?
Okay. So C, as I say, is the main content, and that bit can get into sort of the logic element, the cognitive part. So now what we need to do is return to the emotional element, and this is D is for build desire.
Desire.
So you want to build desire to take action and desire to implement what they've learned and what they've gained with you, to implement it within their lives or their businesses.
You're talking to them about desire in it, or you're trying to create this desire?
No, trying to create desire. So this is where you say, look, the great thing about these strategies, these tactics that I've just taught you, is that you can implement it yourself, and it's easier than you think. And then you just kind of build up that possibility that if they were just to take a little bit of action and to use what you've taught here, then it could create some kind of improvement in their life.
Have you ever done a presentation yourself where you felt you missed that part and the overall presentation or conversation wasn't as good as what it could have been?
You know, I probably the first 15 years of me delivering presentations, I come from a training background. I used to run the second largest local authorities training department in the country. And I was all then about delivering the content. But I've come to realize now that actually it is this emotional element. And it's the thing perhaps the one thing that I have changed that's made me so much better trainer and a better speaker. Because, when you engage that emotional side, then that's the difference between people saying, oh, that was interesting, to people going away and actually doing something with that information. Yeah.
So as you're going through these steps too, when you go back to the like the precursor right at the beginning, where they are and where you want them to be, those 6 steps are all part of the information you're putting between those two points. That's where, as you're thinking about your content, you're making sure that there's benefits. What the content is, you're creating desire as you're putting it all together. So I can't wait. What is E then?
Okay. So E is the one that makes the biggest difference. And as much as I could say to you, look, hey Tyson, come and work with me because I can double your business, I can triple your business, and I can make all these wild promises, and they might be true. But the trouble is, if I say it, you're not going to believe it. And so the best thing you can do here is, if you are trying to influence people over making a buying decision or implementing something in their business, particularly if it's, say, a system that perhaps they think, well, it looks good, but it's going to require a lot of effort, then what you need is some evidence.
Aha.
That's your E, evidence.
Evidence.
And so this is where you say, look, we've taken this strategy and we've used it in these companies here, and we've got these results. Tyson used this strategy and he went out and did this, and this happened to him, and everybody loves him for it. And so what you do is you give case studies or stories or examples about where somebody has taken the information that you've used and gone out and delivered it, and what the real world impact was for them using that.
That makes perfect sense. And a lot of people will probably occasionally receive the odd email in their inbox, 1 or 2 every now and then per day, on top of the other 100 that you get. And there's so many companies that are using, I helped such and such have a 214% increase by using this particular email strategy, and this person doubled their business in 3 months by using this strategy that I've actually used. And sometimes I read that and I go, they're probably not lying, but anyone can twist the figure. Sometimes when I see outrageous figures like that, I don't believe it myself. Maybe am I negative? I hope I'm not.
No, I think that you're quite right. It's natural, especially if we start thinking that people are selling something to us. And even if that's selling an idea, it's natural for us to start to question the authenticity of it. And there's a little trick you can do to make it a little bit more believable. And that's what you do is, if you say you pick a couple examples that you're going to use as your evidence, what people are going to wonder is, is Tyson giving me his best results? And so they think that you're just giving, a skewed picture, as you kind of put it, really. So what you do is you say, look, so I've got a couple of people who tried this out, and one person achieved this, and you give a really big result. And another person who worked with me, she was happy to have done this, and you give a small result, but a somewhat significant result. But what that does is it shows a range of results there, and people will think, well, okay, I could get a big result, but look, he's being realistic with what he's offering here, so I'm probably going to be somewhere in the middle, and that's okay. That makes perfect sense, because
I've also seen people do that, where they go, I've helped these businesses improve business by 30 to 120%, and you sort of go, wow, well, even 30% is better than where I am at the moment, so that is good. 120 would be fantastic. But it's when I see these ones that's 413% increase in 3 months and 280% increase, and I'm like, well, how bad was their business beforehand for it to have such that explosion? And what I don't see is, I've helped them increase 413% in 3 months, and then another email, and then 3 months later help them increase another 413%, because it's not going to happen. I like that. So it's the evidence has got to be realistic evidence, not pie in the sky evidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, don't fake it, don't make it up. Go and find the evidence. It's there. And if you haven't got the evidence because you've never tried it out, go and find some people who will try out your strategy or whatever it is you're going to teach, and then get the evidence.
Okay, so do some beta testing if you need to, get some evidence, and then bring that into your presentation.
Exactly.
Awesome tip. Okay, F. I'm looking forward to F. What's funny? Usually when people have these different things that they run through, by about halfway through, I can normally guess what the next one's going to be. And so far, as I've been going through, if anybody else is listening to this, if you can guess what F is before he says it, then go and buy yourself a scratchy as a prize. I'm not buying it for you. You just go and buy it yourself. But give yourself a prize. If you know what F is, I can't pick what F is going to be. Go for it, Clive.
Okay, well, I'll make it easy for people to go and buy their scratchy. And that's like, what do you do at the end of anything? Well, you finish it, don't you?
Damn it, I was going to say that. I was going to say, maybe it's finish, but I thought, that's too simple. So if you pick the word finish today, go and buy yourself a $5 scratchy as a prize for picking the last word. And if you, whether you said it out loud or you just thought it. So sorry, Clive. So finish. Is it how you finish?
It is, and it's the how is the most important thing. And what we've got to recognise, I actually picked this up from, I did an interview quite some time ago with a guy called Dustin Matthews, and he told me something that I'd kind of not really thought about, and I should have done, and that was really that the whole point of your presentation is to lead them to a place. And if we're thinking about it from a marketing perspective, that might be to make a purchase, or it might be to get an upgrade, or it could be to join your mailing list if they're not ready for that. But what is it you want people to go on and do? Now, as a trainer, what I would do is I'd go and teach the course and I'd give people a call to action. And that's part of your finish is a call to action. And that would be to go out and to make the first step in implementing that strategy.
Yeah.
But as a marketer, I want them probably to go on to my program where they can go and learn more and, get more help and get more value. So that might be the call to action that I would be using. But your finish has to have a clear call to action. And that will be in line with where you want to take people. And that's why right at the beginning, you've got to ask yourself, where do I want to take them? What's the purpose of me talking? And that might well be because I want to increase sales on my podcast recordings or whatever it is.
What I like about that, because I've done a lot of presentations, and I must admit sometimes I've done some where when I finished it and I look back, I go, damn, that was good. I felt great doing it. I could feel the energy from the crowd. If I was giving myself a score, I'd be going, that was a 9 out of 10. Because I think you can always do better. But I really think my finish and my call to action has been really weak. And not that the crowd is sitting back going, geez, Tyson, that was a really, really weak call to action. I think they still get a lot of benefit out of it, but the purpose of me doing it, why was I up there doing the presentation in the first place? Was I there just to entertain people? Or was I there to get an end result for myself as well? I need to work on my finish.
Yeah. And there's the other part of it is a call to action, but also end in an energetic statement. And so this is where your call to action might be the energetic statement, but you want to raise your energy at the end there, because what you're doing, you've given them possibilities, and now it's your call to action to go out there and change their world. And I think what happens is that most of us, I've been guilty of this just like anybody else, is that we just end on some on some really wet fish statement like, well, that's all I've got to say today. That was my presentation. Thank you very much.
This has been really, 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 I'm going to throw in an extra really, really good. How can people get hold of you? One thing I will point out, that Clive does have a podcast himself. So if you've listened to this and you've gone, this Clive dude really knows what he's talking about, he's got a lot of other stuff that is absolutely fantastic. So go and check out his podcast, which is called Get Real About Business. And I have been a guest on there myself. Well, it's coming up. These episodes are probably going to come out around the same time, sort of figured out. But I've had a listen to it. The information on each episode is fantastic. So I love podcasts where you can go to and you always leave learning something. So how else can people get in contact with you, Clive, if they want to connect with you, stalk you at night while you're sleeping, that type of thing?
Oh, sure. I love a good stalker. So I think the first place to do is to head for Get Real About Business podcast or my website. If you just search for Get Real About Business, then you'll end up on my website.
Is it .co.uk?
It's a .com. So Get Real About Business.
Okay.
Yeah. And you should find me there. You can see some of the stuff I've been doing. There's loads of podcast episodes there, and there's other programs if you want to join, you're welcome to. But the other place to go for is if you search on Facebook for Earning the Right. I've got an online community. It's a Facebook community. It's and it's just a really supportive environment. There's none of that spammy stuff that you see in a lot of groups. It's just small business owners who want to connect. and that would be a great place to welcome you there.
Okay, that would be fantastic. So, Clive, I've got one final question for you, and this is my final question that I ask everybody at the end of every podcast, 99% of the time. Occasionally I have forgotten. It's my Monday morning tip. So we've been talking about presentation or conversation skills, and somebody bumps into you at Macca's. You're getting yourself a coffee in the morning on the way to work, and they go, Clive, I just heard you on It's No Secret with Dr. T. I'm about to go to work today, Monday morning, 8:30. What's the number one tip you would give me to start my day? Now, it could be around presentation skills, or it could just be starting the day in general.
Okay. The first thing comes to mind is to have a startup ritual. Now, I have a startup ritual that I shamelessly stole from Robin Sharma, which he called the holy hour. I call it the golden hour.
Yeah.
So it's 20 minutes exercise, 20 minutes personal development, and 20 minutes of planning for the day. And for me, that will be looking at my diary, looking at what's coming up, and writing in my journal. And I think that when you start, you start the day as you mean to go on. And when you start strong by collecting your thoughts, by moving the body a little bit, when you start strong, the day is that much better.
No, I think that's a good tip. Okay, I want another tip though. I want a presentation skills tip. Somebody's thinking, you know what, I've listened to this and damn it, I'm going to go through those 5 things the next time, 6 steps, the next time I put a thing together. I'm going to take my audience from where they are to where I want them to be. What's the number one tip to just get me started? What's the little kick in the pants that I need?
Okay. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll give you a weird tip. Because
weird's great. Like if anyone's listened to this show a few times, they know weird is right down our alley.
Okay. So if you've ever been in a presentation, you've ever got a dry mouth, often happens when you're nervous.
Yep.
Obviously, a glass of water or something nearby is the sensible thing to do. But if you ever get caught short, there's a little thing that you can do is if you gently bite down on the sides of your tongue, the backs of your jaw, gently bite down on the sides of your tongue. You can do this when it's quiet. You can pause this audio if you like, and then press play afterwards. But if you gently bite down, what you'll hear is a little squelch. And what that is you activating the saliva glands. And that can just bring a little bit of moisture into your mouth when you've completely dried up and you need that little bit of moisture to get going again.
I just did it myself then, and it definitely works. And because I have a water bottle next to me here when we're talking, and I just run out. So that's a great tip, because a lot of times you're there about to walk up on stage and you might be a little bit nervous and you get that dry mouth. So that's a fantastic, it is a little bit weird, but you're sort of just chewing on your tongue a little bit on the sides. This sort of area that you hate it when you accidentally bite it, that it hurts a lot. But that's a great tip, just to get the throat lubricated, so when that first word comes out, it's actually a word and it's not that grunting noise.
And it's so important, actually, perhaps if we could give it one final tip, is that start strong. Yeah. So of all your talk, make sure you nail that first little bit, because when you start strong, when you're confident, when you first start talking, everything is easier.
Yep, no, I think that is fantastic. Clive, I want to thank you for being on It's No Secret with Dr. T. This has been great. I've been doing presentations or having conversations with crowds for probably well over 20 years now. It took me until I was about 30 before I got the guts to actually do it. And actually, I think I was 26 when I finally... I'll just share something, because if people have listened to this show all the way through, they may have heard this before. But I managed to get through primary school, high school, and university without ever giving an oral presentation, because I was that scared to do it. And even at university, I remember going up to the lecturer saying, how much is the presentation worth in this course? And they said 40%. I go, cool, put me down for a 0. I won't be here that day, and I will get 50 out of 60 for the exam and pass this thing. And I did that my whole life. And then I was at 26, and I read something about, if you can overcome your fear of public speaking, it will open so many doors for you. And I went, you know what? I have to start doing it. And I went from absolutely dreadful to awful to bad to not very good to okay. And gradually, I just kept doing it. And the more I did it, and that's a tip I'll give people. Once you do one, get out there and do it again as fast as you can, and do it again and do it again. Because the faster you do them, the easier it starts to get. And even know myself, I have a gap for about 6 months before I do a presentation. I tell you, a little bit more nervous than if you were doing them on a regular basis. So anyway, Clive, thank you for being on It's No Secret with Dr. T. This has been great. I've learnt heaps. My presentation skills or conversation skills are going to get so much better. Thank you.
Thank you. It's brilliant. Thank you.
So whether you've been doing public speaking for years, you're just starting out, or maybe you're just considering it, I'm sure you picked up a lot of useful advice from Clive today. And I love what he said about knowing where the audience is right now and where do you want to take them when you finish. And those 6 steps that he ran through from start to finish, I think that is just brilliant advice. And if everybody applies that to the way that they give a presentation or a conversation with a plan, I think there's going to be more positive results when you finish. Now, there were 2 people we mentioned during this podcast. One was Dr. Chris Zano, who was my guest earlier on, and I did mention him, and he was on episode 52, and it was titled People Quit Too Early. And the other person we mentioned was Jim Palmer, and that was episode 40, and it was called Creating Your Dream Business. So I just thought if you want to look at those 2 or listen to those 2 episodes, there are links in the show notes, or you can just go and find them, episode 52 and episode 40. So my guest next week is Dr. Jesse Green. Now, Jesse's been on the show 2 times before, so now he is a 3-peater, and we're talking about hearts and minds, not arms and legs. And we're talking about the difference between just creating a system or creating a framework. And everyone's heard about McDonald's is one of the greatest businesses in the world because they ran on systems. But sometimes you need hearts and minds, not just arms and legs. Here's a little snippet of what's coming up next week.
Then when you come along in your podiatry practice or your dental practice or your small business or whatever industry or profession that you're in, and you actually show up caring, engaging, trying to help, trying to genuinely serve, and you're engaged and you know you're talking to someone, a real person, then that small act of human connection sets you apart by a country mile from every other business out there. Because for all the automation, all the digitization that goes on, really the one thing that we're craving in this world is connection. And I don't mean the digital online type, I mean the human to human real stuff.
I know for a fact you're going to absolutely love that episode, because when you get hearts and minds engaged in your business is going to grow so much faster than just using arms and legs. Because just face it, we don't all flip burgers. And yes, you do need systems to flip a burger. But when you're dealing with people face to face, hearts and minds need to be involved. So before I go, just want to mention I do have another podcast called the Podiatry Legends Podcast. So if you're a podiatrist and you're listening to this at the moment, jump over there, check it out. You're going to absolutely love it. And if you're not a podiatrist, I think you'll enjoy it anyway, just listening to some of the stories of how people got into podiatry, but some of the business lessons they've learnt. And I always believe if you want to be better at what you do, you need to listen to people outside of your own profession or industry. Okay, that's it from me. Look after yourself, look after your family, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye for now.